All right, it's Pops, and I want to talk to you about the new movie, The Suicide Squad, right? A sequel to the 2016 film without the, and a whole lot more fun. So let's talk about this film for a minute. So I actually rewatched the old one as well, so I'm going to go ahead and do a video on that on revisiting that film. And again, I was a comic book collector. This was the highlight of my time is late 80s, early 90s. Enjoyed some of the Suicide comics at that time. Suicide Squad was always more interesting to me when Batman showed up or something like that. But I do enjoy it. I think it's a shame we didn't get Will Smith back as Deadshot. I always kind of want to call Idris Elba Deadshot, but Bloodsport replaces him. So we have this ragtag concept of the government through Amanda Waller, Viola Davis, using these supervillains to go on missions where basically someone's not going to make it, right? The first film, the 2016 film, sets up the fact that they are just now dealing with metahumans. They're just now getting used to the concept that Superman and Flash and all these characters exist. So that's why it seems in sort of its juvenile phase. Whether you've seen the first film or not doesn't matter. They give you enough of the pretext, and I actually like the fact that James Gunn, who directed the two Guardians of the Galaxy film, comes over. He doesn't waste any time. We have a cold open. It is a tremendous scene, fantastic scene. This is a film. It's a comic book film, and it is not for kids. Hard rated R, tons of F-bombs, violent gore, that kind of stuff. So it's not a place. Actually, when someone talked about seeing a 6-year-old kid in there, no, don't do that. Don't do that. What I liked. Okay, so the beach scene is phenomenal, right? So the squad set in on this beach scene. They basically have been betrayed and ambushed. The guns are blazing. Some of them are getting cut down. Great twists and turns, sets things up. You see tragic death, and you see the first real, you're in a comic book thing where the blood in the water spells out the title of the film. From that moment till the last big battle, you feel like you're in a comic book. There's constantly these moments where you would turn a comic book and it would be like something spelled out in the sand or something like that. That's exactly how he approached this book. It is tremendous. Book to screen, just tremendous. So the second unit is kind of there as well. So you have the Idris Elba, you have John Cena's Peacemaker, all these different new characters now. So it's all been blended together into this one team. So what I like most of the characters. I think Viola Davis is still just a cold, chilling Amanda Waller. So believable. She does not care about a human being if it gets her to her ends. Idris Elba is fantastic. I think Joel Kinnaman as Rick Flag is great. I think it is the best sort of, how do I say it? Harley Quinn to date. It's different. Like she seems insane. Like she seems, first off, she's not in like the major center. Like the idea of Birds of Prey to put her center didn't make a lot of sense because in the comic book, she's always like the sidekick. She's like the other character, comic relief and psychotic. To be center never worked for me. I have had a few of the comic books and just never liked it. She's definitely more of like a character in the film instead of being the center of the film. She has a couple great scenes. That worked well. John Cena, it was hard to cheer for him, obviously, in his personal life, with his whole kneeling China thing or whatever about Taiwan. But it worked as the Peacemaker. He was really, really funny. There's some great gags with that. There's this great moment with Idris Elba's Bloodsport and Peacemaker. Like, they're basically having a peeing contest of how to kill people and who can one-up one another. And it's really, really good with a great end to it. Great, cool moments, made me laugh. So all that was great. It was great to see them kill characters. Like they introduce characters. They have a problem killing characters. They have characters that you care about die. All that's great. So let me see who else I think. Weasel has a great moment. Made me laugh out loud, man. It was just so funny. It's like, who never thought to ask this question? And I was like, oh, this is great. And then the fact that there was another moment later on where it calls back to the same thing. It's like, well, you didn't tell me you had this fear. You didn't tell me you had this problem. So I'm staying very spoiler free here in the beginning, folks. I'll get to some more spoilers near the end. Anyway, the film moves great, has great pacing for the first part of the film, and then the middle is really, really slow. It just comes to a screeching halt. I would say the team meets up with where Rick Flag is, and then there's this gap where there's a lot of talkie, and a lot of that talkie needs to go. Then there's this search for Peter Capaldi's character. He's called the Thinker. So there's like a bar scene and this whole mission thing that's in there. I don't want to spoil that too much. All of that could have been trimmed down. We need to lose like 20 minutes or so of that. I know some folks are like, well, I want to see the Harley Quinn part go. I'm like, I can live with a lot of that. That was fine. It was all this bloated, tell not show stuff that's there. It was awful. I got to be honest, I was kind of bored. Like, oh gosh, I hope we didn't lose all the good part of the movie. But the end is pretty good. And of course, Starro is this giant starfish from Justice League #1, and it's believable. It was shockingly good. I was really surprised. I mean, look, we can dissect why a mind-controlling starfish doesn't make humans do things to protect itself, or why, bullets may not work, but this other thing does. And I gotta be honest, it's such a fun ride. Anyway, so let me go back to the middle. There's a couple shots. There's a shot with the general and some birds, and just that, I don't know, we're trying to transition to one evil maniacal villain. I don't care. Like, all of that could have been reduced to a quick shot or quick sequence. Like I said, that rescue part could have trimmed down. I would think if we lost about 20 minutes or so, instead of being, I think it's 2 hours and 12 minutes. I think that's about the right time. Anyway, if we would have got it down to about, an hour 50, I think we would have been in good shape. But all the acting was solid. They make you care about Polka Dot Man. They make you care about Ratcatcher 2. You love Killer Shark. All these characters are really, really good. It is really, really fun. And again, rated R warning attached. Language, violence, highly recommend. Fun movie. The frustrating part is the box office numbers are a massive disappointment. So if you want to dip out because you haven't seen it, you don't want anything spoiled, I'm going to get into some spoilers and talk about that a little bit more. So the box office numbers, I think the 30 to 35 range is a major disappointment when you consider Black Widow got 80. I don't know that that's fair for a rated R film, a Suicide Squad that didn't have an identity. Like, is it a sequel? Is it a reboot? What are they doing? So that was confusing for a lot of folks. And I also think that dropping it on HBO Max day one was a horrible. I have no idea why they're doing that. Like, why would you not drop it on day 31 or something? Like get through your 3 or 4 weeks of box office and then drop it for free on there. Like, people that want to get it for free will just wait it out. And those that really want to see it and your fans would have gone. This movie probably would have made about $60 million in the first week. So shame on them. I don't have any sympathy for them. So the moment they cry foul about that, just know they dropped this on HBO Max day one for free. Now, let me get back to the story. The death and chaos right from the get-go is fantastic. You don't expect it. Like, you have some jokes and gags on the helicopter that's in the trailer about sitting next to the weasel, and Harley calls him a werewolf. So Pete Davidson's character is there freaking out. And again, spoilers abound. But you have this beach scene. So you have all these characters that you're just introduced to. The detachable kid, his arms come off and they're weapons. You have Pete Davidson's character. You have Michael Rooker's character. I don't even know if Michael Rooker's character has lines that matter, but his emotion and the stuff in his eyes and his face is so good. The Weasel's in that scene. Rick Flag and Harley are on that beach with them. They're under gunfire. They've been betrayed by Pete Davidson character, who basically walks out. I'm here. I set him up. Takes a header. His head just explodes. The blood and guts are flying. You have the crazy death of Captain Boomerang. You set that up a little bit like he might last, but I got to be honest. They didn't do anything with him in the first film. He is so insignificant, and really all he is the guy running around trying to sneak a beer and have a stuffed unicorn in his jacket. There's like 2 or 3 scenes where he actually fights. It's extremely lame. And this one, at least he throws the boomerangs and slices some heads. But if that's all they're going to do with him, who cares, right? So what's known early on is that Amanda Waller has set them all up because they're the distraction for the Idris Elba, John Cena, Polka Dot Man, Killer Shark group. They're sneaking on the island too. So go and get rid of the starfish and all of the evidence. That's the mission. Very simple plot. I think keeping it simple and not trying to overthink basically a military style film works so much better. I don't understand why we had David Ayer trying to get into all these weird emotional scenes in the bar and whatever in this first movie, and it was just horrible. And this movie is like not going to pretend. This is what we're going to do. We're going headstrong into the mission. And that scene when John Cena and Idris Elba are just taking people down, shooting out the leg of the table so the fan falls on the guy with the in the bathtub, which is great. Like, who's taking a bath in the middle of the jungle? It was, I got to be honest. And this guy comes out, his junk's hanging out, and Cena pops him, and he's hacking up some guy. I mean, this sequence is fantastic in all the wrong ways. Like, if you think about it, you're like, I can't believe I'm enjoying this. Like, it's so good, and it's also like you don't want to be enjoying it this much, right? Then, like I said, you get through that sequence, and then the film does start to really slot along, and you get into this ruling class that's running this island now, this evil dictator stuff, and the Harley relationship, and how that twist turns in a great scene. You see the mental part that I'm talking about. It's not this hokey. I think in the first film, in Birds of Prey, it's this cutesy feminist thing, this cutesy, look at me, aren't I funny and clever, and I'm mean and I'm whatever. And this one, she looks nuts. Like, it's really pulled off well. So that's a great scene. Her fight scene later when she's being tortured, there's a shot where she's tied up and he turns and you see her eyes open before she attacks him. It's a great shot. Great sequence. I don't care about all the flowers and stuff behind her and all that. I thought that's all weird crap. I just don't care about any of that. And I think the whole lead up to the rescue scene and all of that could have been cut out, whatever. Them chasing down Peter Cabaldi's thinker. And he's interesting because he's really kind of the villain that matters, but you never get attached to him. But he has great lines. There's a great shot of him in his torture lab of what he's been doing. Very disturbing when you think about it. As I said, the action at the end is fine. The twist of who dies, and you feeling for the people that do die, it's really good. Polka Dot Man, it was really so strange. Like, he's so mental. He can only kill if he sees his mom, but he sees his mom basically everywhere. And it's like, that's your mom. It was a great shot, great scene. Ratcatcher 2 is the girl that controls the rats and learned it from her dad. And there's this great backstory of her caring about her dad, and he was the first rat catcher and didn't have anything. And if you can care about a rat, you can care about anything. And it was really good. It was really touching. I liked all that. Some people really love the Idris Elba character. I just like that he played it well. He played it straight for the role compared to Will Smith, who was still Will Smith, kind of being comedic and whatever. And it works so much better. And I think that's why Peacemaker works. Like, I'm not sure Peacemaker by himself, because I'm talking about doing a series, and I'm like, I'm not sure that's going to work by itself without Idris Elba to play off of. But it was funny. Tidy Whitey shot was hysterical. So that was pretty much most of that. The Weasel still being aligned. The credit scene was great. There's shots of Amanda Waller's team in like a computer room. They're monitoring everybody. That got really tedious. Some of the jokes, it's just, I don't care about, these people are not relevant. Like, I don't know. We sometimes leave things that matter for those people that don't. And I wish they wouldn't have done that as much. So good, bad, definitely fun. So on a fun scale, this is really high. This is that 8-9 kind of thing. Fun, gross, profane, and all of that. You've been warned. But if you're into some of that, you love like the Deadpool movies, This is like Deadpool did something inappropriate to the Guardians of the Galaxy and gave like a plus a quarter of the things that came out of the first Suicide Squad, and that's what this movie is. But like it's some Tarantino-esque feel to it sometimes, the way we just arbitrarily just blow people up and then talk about it. It's really crazy. As far as the story and a final evaluation or a review, it's more Midland. You know what I mean? It's more like the 7. It's a 3.5 star out of 5 kind of thing. It's a little better than average, but it's not great. The story is extremely simplistic. In a lot of ways, it deserves a lower rank. But we don't give credit for films that entertain us, that it can be stylish at times, to try some different things. I hate just bagging on films. It's like bagging on an indie film for being low budget. It's like it's not fair. This movie knew exactly what it was. It's a cheesy comic book movie that was going to be violent and hardcore. Okay, so it achieves really well at what it tries to do. Is it trying to be or supplant Wonder Woman, or is it trying to be set up a new era of? No, it's not trying to do any of those things. And kudos to James Gunn for knowing that. Kudos to the DC people that just let him alone doing some of this, and kudos to the cast who all delivered some really good stuff. So tell me what you think in the comments. Maybe I'm way off base. Maybe you don't agree at all, or maybe you do. So I like seeing all those good comments. So feel free to hit me up and let me know. Thanks for your time, and I'm Pops.